Thai Airways has seen a decent amount of criticism over the last few years, mainly on how their product is and how they deliver it. They're definitely past their golden years of having an amazing product and services, being one of the original 5 to found Star Alliance, and even having enough buying power to be featured in a handful of films. Thai is looking at restructuring their image and shaping up their product to recapture a lot of that missing reputation, some of which that has been taken over by Star Alliance partner Singapore Airlines and a handful of airlines in the Middle East. I'll show you today one thing that Thai Airways has done to separate themselves from the competition, having one of the best wide-body economy seats in the skies. Today's trip to Sydney starts at Bangkok's Suvarnabhumi Airport. I'm making my way back home to Vancouver. Again, definitely a very unconventional route, but the best one available. Checking in 2 hours before departure wasn't too bad. Unfortunately, I was originally seated in a crappy middle seat at first. I was informed that there might be an open window seat once when check-in closes. But regardless, even for the busy hours here, security and customs didn't take too long for once. They introduced some automated custom gates, but this was only for Japanese residents at the time, which is a bit oddly specific. My gate today was actually right outside security, but it wasn't open yet. So I used this time to grab a coffee and do a little bit of last minute duty-free shopping. Once when it was open, they weren't letting any liquids over 100 milliliters through, unless it had a duty-free seal. I've flown to Australia from Bangkok before, and this was a first. I had to dump my water bottle, which was a bit understandable, but they even asked me to finish off my coffee I was in the middle of drinking. Like, I get the water, but the coffee was just plain stupid. Luckily, there was a water filling station within the pigpen gates here. While waiting to board, let's take a look at this 3-year-old 777-300ER taking me to Sydney over the next 9 hours. This specific aircraft is leased from BOC Aviation and is the backbone of the Thai Airways wide-body fleet. Thai Airways is also one of the limited amount of airlines that operates the original 777-300 non-ER model. Right before boarding, I was lucky enough to snag a window seat for all those great views, and shamelessly some filler too. 45 minutes prior to departure, boarding was done in an orderly fashion. So, what makes Thai Airways having one of the best wide-body economy seats in the skies is from their 777 seating configuration. Thai Airways is one of the last airlines in the world that still has a 333-777 seating layout. Pretty much every airline in the world has gone for the 343 configuration to maximize passenger loads and revenue. This includes airlines like Qatar Airways, Emirates, Air Canada, American Airlines, British Airways, and the list goes on. Thai is the last exclusion. Even with their updated interiors, they still kept the 333 layout, which is fantastic. This seat has a fantastic 18 inches of width, along with a good 32 inches of pitch, an extra inch of width over the newer standard 777 seats. The IFE is new, but still has the same UI as they've had over the last few years. The tray table has a little cup holder on the back as a part of a two-fold design. The only downside, which is pretty major, it has a really bad sag, even for your new seat, and every seat was like this. Continuing on, you'll find your usual seat back pocket literature. This seat also has adjustable wings for the generous amount of recline that was available. Great for long haul flights, which this plane's meant for. Also waiting at every seat was a pillow, blanket, and a cheap pair of headphones in that Thai Airways purple. We pushed off the gate a few minutes early, seeing as we didn't completely have a full load today.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome aboard Thai Airways International. I'm in 10 minutes before landing. And in a few minutes, we will perform a final safety check. Please follow the safety instructions given by our cabin crew, our member.
While waiting in the takeoff lineup, let's check out the IFE and what's on offer. The UI is the same as the previous aircrafts, but it's on a more modern Panasonic unit. There's integration for a remote if there is one in the economy seats. It's extremely responsive compared to what they've had on their older aircrafts. It has an okay amount of Hollywood releases, including the not actual Oppenheimer movie. I bet you the viewing rights were probably cheaper. The moving map provided by Voyager 3D is always great, but was somewhat limited in terms of different viewing options compared to other airlines that use it. I can truly see this as a great feature most people will skip over and miss. There's an Explore page to Thailand showing different highlights and tourist hotspots and recommendations around the whole country. Even up first, there are recipes for classic Thai dishes available so you can make them at home. Thailand is a giant hotspot of cultures, tourism, and especially the food. This is an excellent and extremely underrated feature. But enough of that, we're finally ready to take off. It's pretty surreal actually seeing non-hazy blue skies in over a week, and definitely makes me fortunate to live in a part of the world where it isn't too bad. But shortly after getting to climbing altitude, breakfast was served promptly. This was an omelette along with chicken sausage, local diced fruit, yogurt, along with a croissant. I was actually a little skeptical of the hot dog, but it didn't taste too bad. But unexpectedly, the omelette was perfectly cooked, not completely well done inside, and a little bit gooey. It's actually tasted pretty good, but the real highlight was the dragon fruit. Again, the table sag was pretty bad and noticeable during the meal services. After breakfast, it's time to check out the labs. It was kept spotless throughout the whole flight. It featured wood paneling, but the best highlight, the complimentary cologne, which it wasn't too strong and had a pleasant scent. Later on in the flight, I went to the lab in the rear of the aircraft, and there were dental kits available too. Not necessary by any means, but an excellent amenity to have for economy passengers. A little bit later on in the flight, I had some of the mango sticky rice I bought in the terminal. I love this stuff with a passion, but you definitely want to eat it when it's fresh and warm. I spent most of the flight napping and watching Bangkok Dangerous, but I also managed to squeeze a decent amount of time in for some work. The tray table is a great size for my 15-inch laptop, but again, this sag was pretty bad. I also checked out the Wi-Fi packages, and they were fairly priced, a lot better than the last time I flew with them between Singapore and Bangkok in 2020 on the A350. Soon enough, the red Aussie Outback came into view, although it's still another 3 hours or so till we reach Sydney. After an episode of 10 and a half, the final dinner was served. Cheese and crackers, cheesecake, a pork and hard-boiled egg salad on the side, but the main, massaman curry. I absolutely love massaman, and I would take it over green curry any day. The only downside was the curry container was pretty full, and again, the tray table was not helping in the slightest. The meal size was the same as the previous meal, so no smaller meals so you can make room for dinner. This flight gets in before 10 p.m. anyways. A great way to finish off a meal, especially a curry, a wet wipe, and a toothpick. As the sun sets over the Great Southern Land, now is a great time for a recap and final thoughts. I get why Thai Airways has been receiving criticism. It's hard not to deny the negative news articles. Although, after being in the aviation field for 15 years now, no two flights are not always the same, most of the time. People are attracted to more negative reception than positive ones. The negative ones just stand out more. That's just how we are as humans. As for Thai Airways, not every flight attendant or passenger service agent are the same. Realistically, no two people are the same. I've had a couple of bad employees in the past, but for the most part, I've came across a lot of good employees for Thai Airways. The crew on this flight were outstanding and extremely friendly, even having time to lightly chat about my trip and my family in Thailand. The agents in the terminal were very welcoming, despite how busy they might be. I mean, I already said it, the food was amazing, seat was one of the best economy seats I've ever had the privilege of flying on, IFE was good, but again, the only downside was that tray table sag, but that can be relatively easy to fix. As for comparison to my Qantas flight 2 months ago from Sydney to Bangkok, these flights both left from their own hubs. There are zero excuses, and Thai Airways blew Qantas out of the water by a mile. Thai Thai Airways will always be my go-to airline when flying to and from Thailand, when the conditions are right. I truly believe the Thai government can turn it around and return the airline back to its former glory. Also, taking it back to a world player up there with Cathay and Singapore Airlines. Admittedly, I hold a bit of a bias, as I've flown Thai Airways all my life, but all my experiences on this flight were truly genuine and not sugar-coated. Thanks again to you all for taking the time to watch this. If you feel like it, feel free to drop a like and subscribe. It's greatly appreciated. Cheers, and I'll see you in the next video.
No.